We head to the phones. Joining us, as she has many times throughout this election season. You've seen her writing for Independent Journal. It's Sara Rumpf. Good morning, Sara. How are you?
Good morning. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. I wanted to have you on the show today, of course, to talk about the primary, big primary day today in 5 different states, but also because you have a unique knowledge of the Florida primary and the way Florida votes. I guess before we get into specifically Florida, what will you be looking for tonight in all the states? I guess combined overall for the Republicans and maybe even the Democrats as well, because they've got a little bit of drama going on in their camp as well.
Yeah, I was joking with a friend of mine that, maybe we could start a third party and put Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in it, and then the rest of us can have a sane, normal election. It looks like, in most of these states coming up, the Democrats have got a much simpler sort of thing where they've just got 2 candidates, and Hillary Clinton still has the better organization and more funding. There's still areas of concern for her. She's expected to take Florida without a problem, but when you look at the breakdown and how the Democrats are voting, Hillary has got a major problem with younger voters and is not doing as well with white Democrats. So in some of the states, Bernie Sanders is likely to still pick up some delegates, and he's certainly not giving up yet. So she's still got to keep fighting. If she does end up indicted, we may have a very interesting game on their side. On the Republican side, it's very interesting because I've seen over the past couple of weeks a lot of people from different campaigns declaring who should stay in or get out. And the reality of the situation is that different candidates that are different non-Trump candidates have better strengths in different states. So if you're one of the people, like I've very openly declared myself to be, that does not want Donald Trump to be the Republican nominee, you want to do everything you can to deny him the delegates.
Right.
The idea that if John Kasich drops out, then those votes all go to Marco Rubio, or if Marco Rubio drops out, that those would all go to Ted Cruz, or Ted Cruz votes would go wherever. You can't break it down that way. The voters are not moving in a single monolithic block from one candidate to another. So we have a situation where because Kasich is the governor of Ohio and he's well known there, he's the strongest candidate to challenge Trump there. There's been some discussion of whether people are actually trying to vote strategically or just voting for the candidate they like. I've never really seen any real evidence that people vote strategically in large numbers. But when you end up with an election where it ends up very, very close, that may end up being a factor.
Visiting with Sara Rumpf. Sara, I know you've taken a lot of looks at the Republican primary there in Florida. Of course, you've covered Florida politics for a long time. You've covered Marco Rubio for a long time as well. All the public polls show that Rubio is down big time. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 public polls that showed him within single digits.
I'm going to object to that. Okay. There's a couple things that are going on with the Florida polls that are driving me absolutely batty. Number one, Florida is a closed primary. Most of the polls that show a much bigger gap, they're doing a likely voter screen where the pollster says, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat or are you an independent? That is just not as reliable. You had to be registered a Republican a month or 2 ago to be able to participate in this. The other thing is that I'm having some real problems with how they're weighting the different areas. When you have a large, diverse, complicated state like Florida, it makes a difference how much weight you give and how much expected turnout you give for the different areas of the state. I had my latest piece at IJ Review. I went through the early voting and absentee turnout for Miami-Dade County and Broward County, which is Fort Lauderdale, just north of Miami. These are very highly populated areas, the biggest in the state, expected to be very strong for Rubio. and they have really spiked in turnout. So when you're looking at the overall makeup of the state, if the pollsters aren't including a higher percentage of votes from South Florida right now, then they're going to end up with skewed results. You look at what happened with Virginia, where the Real Clear Politics polling average, Rubio was down 10 points, 15 points, and then he almost beat Trump in Virginia. So I'm hopeful that the state I grew up in can get this right. There's been a lot of enthusiasm for him. I was looking on Twitter last night, and they had a little meet and greet in West Miami that ended up a lot bigger than they'd planned. And there were so many people tweeting about it that West Miami was trending nationwide on Twitter for over 2 hours last night.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of interest in this. There's a lot of people paying attention. It's hard to tell exactly, is that translating to people getting out and voting. My Facebook feed is full of people that are happily showing their I voted stickers, but that is not scientific, obviously. So yeah. I don't know.
and we have a couple of minutes left. If Rubio loses Florida, now his campaign has said they're prepared to fight in all 50 states. If Rubio loses Florida, if Kasich loses Ohio, in a traditional election year, that would mean they would probably need to drop out. If you can't win your home state, you need to go. Do you think that happens in this election cycle?
We've got a very weird election cycle, and I almost don't want to make any predictions about anything. I'm not sure the sun will rise tomorrow at this point. With the ability of candidates to raise money through super PACs and the way that this race has just been absolutely wild, if a candidate can get the funding together to keep traveling to the debates and continuing on, there is a good chance, even if Trump wins Ohio and Florida, there's still a good chance that he may not be able to get the 1,237 delegates needed to take the nomination outright. And there's a lot of competing theories about what a contested convention would actually look like. Right. Now we have not had one in decades, so it's very hard to predict how that would look. But there's if you're sitting there around the strategy table with Cruz or Rubio or Kasich, the temptation to keep fighting until Cleveland is got to be pretty strong. Yeah. Because there's a solid chance that if you hang on to your delegates and you fight on until the convention, that you could at least secure a VP slot, or as the rounds of it's a little bit complicated, but the short story is that as the rounds of votes go on, more and more delegates are set free. That's bad for Trump and good for Rubio or Cruz. Right. So there's a possibility that some of these guys could do very well in the next 24 hours or could not do what they wanted, but still manage to get to the convention and end up in a pretty good spot.
Very interesting. Sara Rumpf of Independent Journal and other places as well. I appreciate your time today, and we'll talk to you later on during the election process that I'm pretty sure will continue into the summer.
Yeah, have a great day.
You too. Sara Rumpf, you can follow her on Twitter as well.